picture of a couple millennials constantly on a quest to find and provide momentarily escape for listeners of their burgeoning internet radio program. Portrait of a professor and writer with equal doses of knowledge, wisdom, and horror in which she can dispense at any given moment with aplomb. In the next hour, we'll hear what happens when the professor meets the podcasters and gives them a lesson they soon won't forget in the spookums zone.
3SFX presents the Due podcast with your host, T. Sterling Watson.
Good morning, Indubians. I'm T. Sterling Watson.
And I'm Kortney.
This is the Due podcast. Thank you for stopping by and pressing play. This is week number whatever. It's Halloween. We're recording live from the south side of Wakanda in Little New Indubia on the corner of T'Chaka and MLK Drive. Kortney, how are you doing today?
I'm doing so well. How are you?
I am fantastic. We have a special guest with us today for our special Halloween episode, our Spookums episode, which we did last year. So we brought along Tananarive Due, author, professor, and just all around amazing person. Just one of my favorite people I follow on Twitter. And
and you nailed that. You nailed that, pronouncing my name. That was fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. This is the busy season, fall. My class at UCLA has started up. I teach a Black horror class at UCLA, and I'm trying to finish a novel. And I have a short story deadline. I still don't know what I'm going to write. But anyway, everything is and then, the headlines, evergreen complaints. So I'm sure.
Yeah.
Lord only knows.
Yeah.
And I that's one of the things I love about following you, your insights to things going on in the world. But we're here for a bit of an escape and maybe even a little terror or Twilight Zone, or even though I think we might be living in a Twilight Zone now. But but I do have a question for you, since this is the first time that you've been on now. Let's imagine if Ben & Jerry's was trying to come up with an ice cream flavor and they called you and they were like, we need a flavor and something to name it. And it could be anything you want. So what would be your flavor? Describe what you would like in it and then come up with a name for it.
Sweet cream.
Sweet cream. Salted
caramel chunks. That soft core, salted caramel in the center. It's like I've given this thought.
I think you have
brownie blondie chunks. Am I leaving out anything essential? Because I'm not a chocolate person, honestly. So that's why you know that there is no chocolate. I can eat it from time to time, but it's not my favorite. So that would be the one I would have a hard time walking past. And if it was cake instead of brownie and it actually tasted like fresh cake, that would be amazing. And what would we call that? Salted caramel. Sweet cream, blondie chunks. Now this is going to be the hard part, coming up with a name for that. Is it supposed to be a name with anything to do with me?
It can, or it could be related to what you've put into it. Whatever that particular flavor makes you feel. Trying to think of some of the past names we've had. Sometimes it just comes out as an emotion, and that becomes the name.
That's a good one.
For a pun.
Sandy Beach.
Ooh, I like that.
Sandy Beach, because that is my happy place.
I
as long as there's ocean, real ocean there. But So yeah, that's what I'm going with.
Caramel is in there too. So
Salted. I mean, I don't know. I guess there's brown stuff on the beach, coconuts, whatever. I don't know. But look, I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna go with my happy place, and that's my flavor.
all right, I like it, and I like the flavor too. Those are things I'm picky, so but all those things I do eat, so I'll probably eat that. So all right, that was good. I like it.
Nice. Now I'm hungry. Thanks.
And I'm wondering if I actually did see anything. I don't think I've seen anything that has blondie pieces in it. I do know that they have the salted caramel core, which I like the core ones.
Yeah. Those are good.
But I haven't been indulging too much into ice cream lately. I don't know why. I think I just haven't stopped by the freezer, and now I'm kind of regretting not doing that because I want some ice cream now. So it's my own fault bringing it up.
There you go.
Yeah, but we
don't start.
Already
none, won't be none. Sorry, go on.
Correct. But we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to dive more into your history, things that you teach, things that you write, and you're going to be sharing a story with us too.
Yes.
So I'm excited about that.
Me too.
So we will be right back to the Indue podcast.
The Indue podcast.
It's right in your own backyard, hiding behind a bush, or maybe already inside your house. Sometimes they are hanging out in malls, in schools, in churches. While it might be hard to believe, roughly 5 million Americans don't even know where clowns come from. In communities just like yours, there are many who need help. Join people across the country who are coming together to stop clowns and their foolish shenanigans. Start today. It can be as easy as telling parents to stop inviting them to birthday parties. No child in the history of children has ever requested a clown at their party, ever. Clowns feed on your attention, so don't give in. Ignore and run away. Mimes are okay. But remember, if you see a clown, don't fool around, get out of town.
Hey there, friend. Enjoying this podcast production? I bet your sweet buttery face you are. I bet you're also thinking, how can I support this show and look awesome doing it? Aside from telling your best pal and all their kin, you can head over to Indube.com, and 2 clicks later, after hitting the store tab, you'll find yourself with several fun and fancy swag brought to you by the fine folks at the Indube Network and TeePublic. If you're a fan of Indube, Food Fight, or anything under the Indubian sun, you can find it plastered on mugs, hoodies, pillows, cases, bags, and of course, t-shirts. Hurry on over now, and you may catch a sale with all tees 30% off. Seriously, they have sales like every other week. So head on over to Indube.com or teepublic.com. That's TEEPUBLIC.com and type Indube in the search bar and continue to pod with the best. And welcome back to the Indue podcast. We are here with Tananarive Due.
Boom. Again.
Yes. And well, how long have you been writing? We'll start there.
I started very young as a writer. I literally from the age of 4, I was folding typing paper in half and drawing stick figures and captions and calling that a book. You know, I wrote a book called Baby Bobby when I was 4. And I wrote liner notes in the back. I wrote, and I didn't spell all the words right, so don't get the wrong picture. You know, I wasn't, but I wrote Baby Bobby is a book about a baby. The author is Tananarive Due. I was like, boom, I am self-declaring I am an author, and I've always had that as a guide. So, you know, now my son is a freshman in high school. That was the age, well, in where I grew up, it was when you were a 10th grader, you went to high school. I gave up music. I was in band and I had piano lessons up until 10th grade, but I gave that up to pursue writing. I thought I need to focus everything I have into this one thing.
What led you to, did you always, or not always, write horror, but like what led you to writing horror specifically?
It's funny. As a young writer, I did write horror and scary stories and Black characters. But it's interesting, as I got older and I was exposed to more, honors English classes and college English classes and classic literature classes and all this, I started writing. Not only did I start writing non-genre, but I actually started writing white characters. It was so interesting. I was so influenced by the canon as I was trying to figure out what is this thing called writing and what does a story look like. If I had grown up in a world where I had known about Octavia Butler even, and I didn't, it would have made a huge, huge difference. I would have been like, what? Why am I writing this? I could be writing. But it took me a while. And, I think it literally, there was an unfinished novel I was writing in grad school. This is what it was about. It was about a white male gay playwright living in New York City who was dying of leukemia and whose illness brought him closer to his estranged brother. Now, I don't have a brother. I had never lived in New York City. And I'm not a gay white male playwright, okay? So I had erected a lot of obstacles for myself. And no wonder I ran into them headlong. The most I could imagine a party scene in the New York theater scene pretty well, but come on, I knew nothing about that. And I was like, why am I, why am I trying to write this story? I felt passionate about the characters, but what happened was, and this is true of a lot of learning writers, and don't sweat it if the work you're working on right now is not the one. You might even know it's not the one, but that doesn't mean that it can't be a teaching tool. Because that novel, which I called A Separate and Related, which I think is still a great title. But anyway, that novel taught me to write professional level scenes, where you build dramatic tension, these two brothers trying to find their way to each other. Even though they had nothing to do and I didn't know those people really, I had a lot of gay friends. And I think that's why I was writing that story, because as a Black person, I was gravitating toward the way, we didn't call it the LGBT community back then, but gay people were so marginalized. And I was really drawn to that, because I could be Black in public, and sometimes that was a problem, but it wasn't going to be a problem every time, right? As it is holding hands as a same-sex couple and all this. So I was really drawn to those stories. And that's why I ended up trying to inhabit this character in his world. But it was his character and his world. I could write that story much better now. I've been in New York, I've met some playwrights, but in the meantime, that was a point where I was like, okay, I've got this now. I've figured this thing out about how to create people who just come to life in your scenes and talk to each other. All I have to do is point them and they handle it. And I took all that energy into writing my first novel, which was The Between, where for the first time I was really writing since I was a kid. The first time since I was a kid, I was writing a novel-length manuscript with Black characters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, it was deep.
Yeah.
and even
Very
then,
much so.
It was a Black male that was my first protagonist, So I was still sort of coming back to myself in some ways.
So who was your first Black female protagonist?
Even in her case, she's a co-protagonist, but she's such a strong character that I have to say Jessica in My Soul to Keep. Because now in terms of really the protagonist though, not a co-protagonist, it was probably, which came first? I think it was The Good House. It would be The Good House or The Black Rose. No, The Black Rose came first. My story about Madam C.J. Walker that I did with the estate of Alex Haley.
Wow.
That was the first, this is my story. I'm a woman and it's all my story.
I think we may have talked about Madam C.J. Walker previously on the podcast, and I've always found her story to be interesting.
Oh yeah.
I
understand LeBron James's company is about to do some kind of a film project with that based on Alelia Bundles' book, her great granddaughter.
Yes, I think I heard that too. I can't remember if got to the casting part of it yet, but either way, I was excited. I was like, hey,
No,
I know who she
I don't think
is. So
yeah, that's exciting. I mean, this is that time. I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but this is such an exciting time for Black creators, you know.
Mm-hmm.
mhm. This
Yeah.
podcast is all about tangents too, by the way.
Yeah,
So
okay, well, then, good. Because this is our time, you know. This is
It really is.
everybody who hung in there, who was publishing in the 90s and then couldn't get contracts, you know.
mhm.
Everybody who tried to get a movie made for, not everybody, but a lot of people tried to get a movie made for 20 years, you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
And it finally, if you could hang in there long enough, and the new people coming in, of course, rightfully so, they still see how far there is to go.
Right.
But
Right.
for me, with a long view, I'm like, whew, this is, I mean, finally, we're back to the 90s, and hopefully we can sustain and be better, you know, than the
Mhm.
90s.
Yeah, this has been the year of, I suppose, securing the bag is the what's been passed around. So I'm excited to see other creatives get their shine and their light. And
It's fantastic. And here's, I mean, something I'm super excited about. I just met a filmmaker the other day at a reading, or rather a panel event, someone that I've known through social media. Donovan Vim Crony is his name. And, you know, he just got, you know, a very nice Hollywood gig, and they came to him. So this was a small independent filmmaker who had made a short film that I found online, and I put it in my Black Short Film Festival back when I was teaching at Spelman College. And boom, now I'm just really, what makes me happy about this story is that they went to him.
yeah.
And I had a feeling they had. I said, "Did you go to them or did they come to you?" He said they came to me. I was like, "Yes." And this confirms a lot of stories I'm hearing. People from comics, people from academia. One of my former colleagues at Spelman, a professor in screenwriting, got pulled into a show, you know, quit her job to come to Hollywood. I mean, that was
Wow.
not happening a few years ago. I'm just telling
Right.
you, it was not happening. So there's a lot still wrong, but there's a whole lot going right now.
That is exciting to
And very heartening. It's very good to hear because, you know, Sterling and I are Black creatives, and we see the climate just as everybody else does. We watch the news and we hear things, and it can be really disheartening, um, just to, you know, not only see how things are going, but to
Yeah,
see, you know, to see how our people are being treated, and to hear something a little bit differently, well, a lot differently, or see, I guess, the other side of that, I should say, is really encouraging. Um, and I know for me personally, it makes me want to create even more.
good.
That, you know, there is a platform. There's always been a platform, but like you said, it just wasn't as open and as present as it was before. And um, you
Yeah,
know, I
we
still
didn't have
think
social media, you know, when I came up.
right,
So
right,
please, you know, that's a whole
right.
different. I would, you know, to be a 28-year-old right now would be, except for all the emotional stuff.
Right. No,
I,
thank you.
I don't miss that, but to be a 28-year-old in terms of the energy level would be ideal. You know, there's so much to leap from this height. But
Mhm.
yeah, I joke about this on Twitter, or I used to back when I could joke. No, I'm kidding. No, I still do joke. I consider laughter to be imperative in creating change because it's a part of self-care.
Mhm.
yes.
So yeah, I can, you know, be mad all day on Twitter, but at night I'm going to try to laugh, and I'm going to try to make you laugh. And that's important. I listen to stand up every day. I'm not even kidding. So it's very, very important to me. But at the same time, as artists, it feels a lot like we're kind of fiddling on the deck of the Titanic, you know, like we have
Yeah.
great pride in our musicianship and our, you know, courage or whatever as we pursue this, you know, this piece we're playing, but we're all about to be underwater in 5 minutes. And I know there's a lot of that feeling, but so much of it is this. I've been tweeting. I alternate between, oh my God, we're all gonna die, and what a time to be alive. And these
Yeah.
two things both feel true, often simultaneously. Okay. So there's an actual cognitive dissonance going on, but I can hold both of those spaces. In fact, the What a Time to Be Alive helps keep me from sinking into, oh my God, we're all going to die,
Right.
because that is literally true. Okay, and
Right.
you could sit and think about that all day,
Mhm.
and be paralyzed by that, or you can find outlets and ways to release that stress and release that trauma, and some of it is comedy, but hey, let's get to the subject at hand.
Mm.
Sometimes it's horror. Horror is, and that's what horror to me in part is about, because I came into horror. I heard that question come telepathically. I heard you ask it.
You're good. You're good. I sent it.
I try to keep it on the down low that I can do that. But anyway, my late mother was a civil rights activist. In fact, in teaching my Black horror class at UCLA, I show a slide of a picture of her being arrested and carried away by two police officers after a 1963 protest. And just this determined look on her face. She's biting her lip. And she was very strong, of course, when she was at the protest, and she could go to jail and over and over again. But that kind of engagement with the state and kind of casual state violence and casual state dehumanization carries scars,
Mm.
or makes scars rather. So her trauma came out in many ways, but one very physical way was that she wore dark glasses her whole adult life after she was 20, because a police officer threw a tear gas canister in her face in 1960 when she was a 20-year-old college student, in her face.
Wow.
And we wondered sometimes, is that a thing or is that in her head? But honestly, this was a Florida A&M University student. Shout out to FAMU, the Rattlers. And when the newspaper, the Tallahassee Democrat, did a story about a reenactment of that very protest, including mock tear gas, and I'm really glad my mom wasn't there. I mean, I'm not glad for the reason she was ill, but I don't think it would have been a good experience for her to see it reenacted the way they described it. They went there. They went all the way there. And in the comments section, person after person talked about having lasting effects from that tear gas. So that's what I was thinking of when they started throwing tear gas in Ferguson. I was thinking about my mother, and I was thinking about the many, many years that her eyes bothered her and others. So this was trauma now being enacted upon another community at another time. And this is scary stuff. Scary stuff. So I've come to realize that my mother's relationship with horror was not the same as my relationship when I was a kid. When I was a kid, of course, she loved horror movies. So I was raised on those creature features and Dracula and the Mummy and the Wolfman and the Mole People and all that. That was our stuff. And I credit her for instilling that love for me. And then after that, it was Stephen King, But she, I believe, used horror as a way to process her trauma. See, I had never been through anything. I mean, I'd had my little feelings hurt. Someone called me the N-word or whatever. But, and the woman was tear gassed and thrown in jail and arrested many times and Lord knows what, So horror was not real. And it was a way to sort of, as an artist, I think of it as a way to sort of give it a form. This is what this feels like. This horrible feeling, this fear that people want to hurt you and kill you just for existing, just for being in this space. This is your country, that you're supposed to pledge allegiance to and die for if you're called to war. So it's like, well, whoa, this is a lot. So that for her, I think, was processing trauma. For me, as a young person, it was like, wee, I'm on a roller coaster, oh, jump scares, that's funny. Oh, that's not real, giggle, giggle. But the older I've gotten and the more I've seen, the more I've been through, and especially the biggest loss was the loss of my mother. I now better understand how I can still go to horror and get not just the roller coaster thrill out of it, but it does seem to pull some of the poison out sometimes. You can, especially if you look at something like Jordan Peele's Get Out, which is about the thing itself in a way that we haven't really had in our horror. Rusty Cundiff also had a lot of social statements and anti-racism and Tales from the Hood in the 90s. But Get Out, as an Oscar-nominated film, and just puts white supremacy front and center. And from the opening, really from the trailer, but I'm not, I mean, I knew, but from the opening scene where Andre is walking through the white suburb and he's lost, I was like, oh, I'm already scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I was a little apprehensive as well, but yeah.
So it's that. It's like, whew, just let's breathe, let's breathe it out. Let's breathe it out and breathe it out, running away from something that wasn't real. And even if it kills you, you get to see people hopefully being brave or resourceful as they try to fight it. I think that's one of the biggest contributions that the arts can make right now. I'm reading Tomi Adeyemi's book, Children of Blood and Bone, right now.
Yeah.
Which I just read it, got a 7-figure advance, and it's in the film works and all this. Let me tell you something. This is a fantastic novel. It's YA fantasy. I don't read a whole lot of YA, but this, I mean, if you have to call it something, I guess it's YA, but it's just a fantastic story. It's an uplifting story. I was in my car listening to this audiobook when there was a confrontation about to take place. I was literally yelling out. I was so excited. I was like, yeah, it's just like that emotion. And the book is all about summoning your courage, right? So the works, at least my work for me, as the creator, is a letter to me about summoning courage. And I feel very blessed that I have other readers who are also with me in this journey trying to find courage, which is what draws me into horror, because it's not going to be zombies, but it is going to be something.
Wow. There's a lot said. I want to pick apart. The first thing that comes to mind is self-care, which is something that we all need. Kortney and I talk about that often, all the time. And I also thought about how we both, because we'll text each other saying, oh, the world's going to end, but also, find things that we laugh about. So that whole thing, that's half of our conversations when we talk.
Right.
But you said you also find comedy in self-care, or that is self-care, the laughter. So what is it that you turn to that makes you laugh?
Oh, I have a lot of, this is where it gets hard to name all your favorite stand-ups. And it's hard to remember who is in and out of good graces, because our entertainers are letting us down,
Yes, they are.
This is true.
Left and right.
I mean, this guy, it's just, so the more you know. Richard Pryor is, of course, one of the greats, but has a very problematic history with women, as I've come to learn, in later years. So now I'm hearing all that when I hear the routines. But I grew up listening to that with my dad somewhat inappropriately, and with the volume turned low. So I have a love of stand-up from a young age. I did an open mic night once in my 20s, kind of a stunt for a newspaper story, but I actually went to Coconuts Comedy Club in Miami, and I did the thing, and packed the house. So I got some laughs. But that was another path not taken. I could see how that would look and work, but I wasn't interested in the travel and the lifestyle and all that. But there are a lot of stand-ups that I love. What are their names though? Oh my gosh, Daryl. I'm trying to see because I have a semi-photographic memory. Daryl. Anyway, okay. Wanda Sykes is one. Patton Oswalt is one. Hannibal Buress is one. There's so many. And the names all escape me, and I'll think of it. Oh, Daryl Lennox, I think is his name, up and comer. Just really, really clever, observational comics. Bill Burr is funny. Kevin Hart is funny. I my taste range. I can listen to Cat Williams. I can appreciate it. Dave Chappelle, of course, a classic. I want to name more women. There aren't enough women in comedy for my taste, but yeah, I just love comedy, and I swear I was listening to a certain hearing a little while ago on my radio, and after a few hours of that, I just had to turn it off, and I went right to my stand-up station, and within 30 seconds I was laughing. Now that's powerful.
Yeah, that is. That's, I mean, for me too, that's why I love comedy because that is an escape. And it's hard to be upset and laughing at the same time. At least it is for me. And it's always been that way in my family, because anytime any of us have any issues, we all get together, and by the end of we're discussing whatever it is that's really troubling us, laughter kind of sets in, and it's like the cure, the medicine that we need to help get through.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, my dad is a great role model. He's 83 and very healthy so far. We've been lucky, but a few trips to the hospital, including a scare when he was visiting me. And typically speaking, he just keeps his good humor no matter where he is or what his circumstances are. He's always trying to make everybody laugh. And part of that is just his personality, but part of that is his personality, but part of it is also strategic. It's back to, I think, going back to his demeanor when he used to talk to these small town Southern judges as a civil rights lawyer, is likability. Maybe they won't outright forget me and let me die. If I can make them laugh. So mostly it's his personality. Maybe that's just like my cynical take on it, but it's also his personality. So yeah.
Even in these trying times, I try to stay up to watch Colbert, because that's the one way I can get both news and my laughs in at the same time. So it makes digesting the news a little bit easier. So it's also my go-to as well.
And Daily Show, I've been listening to that
yes.
from time to time on Comedy Central Radio, and still funny stuff. Still funny.
Now, with Get Out, since you had brought it up, do you still teach the course A Sunken Place, or is that just the one-time event that happened?
Oh, no. That's look. If they let me teach a course on Black horror, you think I'm going to stop teaching that? I love Black horror, so it's like never work. It's like, oh, we get to watch all these movies and read all this great stuff and talk about it. So I'm teaching it actually fall quarter, winter quarter. I teach Afrofuturism in the spring, and I think I'm going to start teaching a women in Afrofuturism course. Try to narrow it down. The course got a little overly broad, I thought, last time. So I'm going to try to narrow it down. But yeah, the Sunken Place course at UCLA, funny story. I thought of the course a year ago, that last summer, and was just tweeting about the fact that I wanted to do it. And my department chair had said, sure. I was like, wait, you're going to let me do a Black horror course, really? And so I was watching movies and trying to figure out. And I brought Twitter along, as I often will do on social media. And Evan Narcissus wrote a story about the course for IO9. And literally the same day that story came out, and I put him off for weeks because I was trying to finish my syllabus. It was very strange for me to be trying to write a syllabus while the media wanted to interview me about it. I was a little weirded. I was like, what's going on? But there was just a lot of interest because of Get Out. It was this huge sensation. And my course was called The Sunken Place. So Jordan Peele's company, Monkey Paw Productions, followed me on Twitter. And I'm a Twitter hawk, so I saw it pop up. It's like that was in real time. I'm like, oh, well, it's like, let me reel that fish, because on Twitter, as you may know, if someone follows you and you are following them, you may message to each other with ease. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna shoot a note to Monkey Paw, because I've reached a point where I don't feel shy about such things anymore in a lot of circumstances. What does it hurt to ask? To say I would love it if we could invite Jordan Peele to the class, and here are the dates the class will be running, and here's my email address if you want to follow up. It's one of those things you just throw out there. You don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Child, the next thing I knew, Jordan Peele himself popped up in my DM. Ha ha, he says, it would be really funny if I surprised them. And that is exactly what TF happened. Because he came in disguise. He wore a baseball cap and a hoodie. And I snuck him in. We came up with it before class. It was like a bit almost. I'm going to officially say that I've done a bit with Jordan Peele, because we were like, okay, here's how we're gonna do it. Lights low. They're watching a clip from the movie. Lights up. You ask a question. Boom. And that's pretty much what happened. I put on a scene I knew would really upset the class, which is the scene with the car keys and Rose dangling the car keys. That moment when you realize Chris is on his own. Sorry, spoiler, but y'all should have seen it by now, honestly. So I put that on, and everyone's talking to the screen. I mean, it was like, in my mind, they were like throwing things. But it was a comfortable class, and we'd been talking about the film for a long time. So they were really making a lot of noise while they were calling Rose several names while this clip was playing. And then I turned up the lights and I tried to settle them down because they really were in a, movie theater level of conversation. Mm-hmm. When I said, okay, now what do you think the director was trying to say about the coveting of Black bodies? So Jordan Peele in the back row raises his hand. Is like, I have a question. And he walks up to the stage or the podium rather. Well, now it's a stage. And pandemonium. I mean, they went crazy. And I'd like to tell people it's not that they went crazy because, there's a celebrity in the classroom. It was because we had just spent 2.5, 3 weeks maybe working up to Get Out. We started with Du Bois and the Comet, with the black man and white woman as the only survivors of a post-apocalyptic event. And we took it through Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. And I mean, there was a lot of context for this film before we ever screened it. And then when we screened it, we were picking it apart thematically. So they were going crazy because Jordan Peele, the creator of this masterwork, that is Get Out, was in the room with them. One of the girls literally walked out of the room. And I'm like, wait, where's she going? But she was pacing the hall in tears, fanning herself, just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Overwhelmed. In fact, one of the students in that class, Camille Oshundara, was an intern at Monkey Paw for a very short period of time. And then the next thing I knew, her face was in the Hollywood Reporter, and she just got hired as their cultural executive.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, that class went great. That was all from the first class. That was all from the first class. So if you're asking me, am I still teaching that class? Heck yeah, I'm still teaching that class.
You produce stars.
I've refrained from bugging Jordan Peele again. He came fall quarter. Universal brought him winter quarter. I wasn't going to ask again, but Universal saw it as a part of their Oscar campaign, in all honesty, to send a reporter from Vanity Fair with him to my class a second time, So they asked me. I'm like, yeah. And I really haven't wanted to approach him again. I don't want to draw too much from the same well. But, I may give Camille a nudge and say, what's up? But we will have...
you have connections.
Yeah, I did, right? Exactly. So at the very least, I can ask. But we do have Rusty Cundiff, who directed Tales from the Hood and a far too little known but hysterical hip-hop movie called Fear of a Black Hat, which came out the same year as CB4 and didn't get any promotion and nobody knows about it. But I guarantee you, if you watch Fear of a Black Hat, you will wonder what has taken you so long to find this movie.
I'm already curious now. So.
Oh, it's really, I mean, he did the music, he did the lyrics. It's the whole, it's a mockumentary about a hip hop group, and it's hysterical.
I must is it streaming?
I don't know. I need to find out. That's a good question.
Because once you said mockumentary, okay, I'm already there. I love Christopher Guest films, and just
if you liked Spinal Tap, this was like the hip hop version of Spinal Tap for me.
I'm already there. I think I already love it. I haven't seen it. I'm there. And I don't know if you let me rephrase the question because I'm just excited. But now that you have these connections, are any of your stories going to be floating over to Monkey Paw Productions?
We had a little meeting, something over there. I would love to find the right
a little meeting.
We're trying to. It's like the right thing. I think the best thing we could go in there right now would be a script.
Okay.
So, and that's just general advice. All you creatives out there who are pitching is great, but you really ought to be writing, because Lord forbid one of these pitches works out. The first thing they want is a writing sample. So don't be out there with a great idea and no script. So we're waiting to go back there with a script. Steve, my husband Steve, came up with a fantastic idea. Stephen Barnes. And it's not horror, but it's just, I think it's a great script, and I'm working on a horror script. So we're going to wait. I have every confidence, though, that we'll figure out something.
Yes, it sounds like you're already kin to the monkey paw family.
I
So.
mean, we're not quite blood family, but it was a good experience for him, coming to the class and feeling that love and realizing the impact that his film was having beyond what he even I think understood.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was we're fans.
That's good. That's good. So yeah, you brought along a story. Say brought along as if you came out somewhere,
Oh.
but would you be so kind to share a little bit of your writing with us?
So I think I've decided on a short story called The Knowing, which I've just sold as a reprint and is one of my favorites, using one of my old standards, which is a child narrator, to tell the story.
Okay.
Our teacher said one day that knowledge is power, and I had to raise my hand even though I don't like to. I like to sit and be quiet and watch people and wait for lunchtime. But I had to ask him if he was sure about that or if maybe knowledge isn't just a curse. He asked me what I meant by that, and I said, hey, that's what my mama always says. Knowing is her curse, she whispers, touching my forehead at night softly with her long fingers like spiders' legs. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and she's there whispering and rocking me, but I still didn't tell my teacher that part. I could tell from the way my teacher looked at me sideways and went on with his lesson that he thought I was trying to be a smartass. People always think you're something you don't want to be. Mama says that too. I like this school in Chicago all right because my math teacher is real pretty with long legs and a smile that means what it says. But me and mama won't be here long. I know that already. I was in 6 different schools last year. It's always the same. One day I walk into wherever we're staying and she looks up at me through her cigarette smoke and says, throw your things in a bag. That must mean the rent hasn't been paid or somebody got on her nerves, or maybe she's just plain sick of being wherever we are. I don't say anything because I know if she stays unhappy too long, she'll start throwing things and screaming at the walls, and the police might come and put me in foster care like that time in Atlanta. I was gone 6 months staying with these white people who were taking care of 6 other boys. Mama almost lost me that time. When the judge said she could take me back, I smiled in the courtroom so he wouldn't see how mad I was at mama. But I hate it when she acts like she's the kid instead of me. I didn't speak to her for a whole week. And when I did, I said to her, damn, mama, you got to do better than that. I meant it too. And she promised she would. She really tries. Things will be really cool for a while, better than cool. And then I walk through the door and see that look on her face and those Marlboro lights or whatever she smokes when she's in a smoky mood. And I know we're moving again. I guess she feels like she'll be all right if she just runs away from it, as if you could run away from your own head. I wish mama wouldn't smoke though. It freaks her out. She goes up and down the stairs and walks through the halls wailing and sobbing, pounding on people's doors and shouting out dates: March 12th, 2003, September 6th, 2006, December 13th, 2020. I have to find her and bring her back to the apartment to listen to Bob Marley or Bunny Wailer or something that calms her down. I hug her tight when she sobs. I can feel her shaking against me. Those are the times I have to be the grown-up. It's all right, mama, I say. Nikki, she says to me in a little girl's voice. I ain't only telling. I make it happen. When they ask me, I say, okay, you're October 15th. You're February 8th. I'm doing the deciding, Nikki. It's me, ain't it? Ain't it? She gets like that on dope, thinking she's God or something. I have to keep telling her, mama, it ain't you. Knowing ain't the same as deciding. TV guide don't decide what's on TV. Then, if I'm lucky, she'll get a smile on her face and go to sleep. If I'm unlucky, she'll keep crying and go back running through the halls, and one of the neighbors will call the police. That's what happened in Atlanta. They thought she was crazy, so they locked her up and took me away. Lucky for her, the doctor said nothing was wrong with her, but he didn't know what she knows. In Miami Beach, the last place we lived, our apartment was upstairs from a botanica, which is where the Cubans go to find statues of saints and stuff like that, trying to make magic. Mama took one look at that place and almost busted out laughing. She doesn't believe in statues, she says, but she was real nice to the owner, Rosa, who spoke mostly Spanish. Mama told Rosa what she does, what she knows. It took the lady 3 or 4 times to understand Mama, and then she didn't want to believe her. El día que la gente van a morir? Rosa asked, frowning. You could tell she thought Mama was trying to scam her. Mama sucked on her teeth, getting important. She looked back toward an old lady in the back of the shop who was checking out some oils and small glass bottles on a shelf. The lady was breathing hard, walking real slow. Mama can smell sick people, no lie. Mama leaned close to Rosa's ear. You know that lady? Mama asked her. Rosa nodded. Sí. My aunt, she said, está enferma. She's gonna die soon, real soon. Rosa looked offended, her face glowing red like a dark cherry. She turned away from Mama, straightening up some of the things on her shelves. You should have seen all that stuff. She had clay pots and plates and cauldrons and beads and tall candles inside glasses with holy people painted on them, even a candle that's supposed to burn 14 hours. And there were teas labeled té de corazón and té de Castilla. I always pay attention when I'm in a new place. I like to see everything. Listen, Mama said to Rosa, trying to get her attention. You know your days of the week in English? Remember Friday. That lady back there gonna die on Friday. Mama held up 2 fingers. Friday in 2 weeks. Viernes. Nikki, how you say 2 weeks in Spanish? Dos. I had to think a few seconds. Semanas. Rosa stared at me, then at Mama's 2 fingers, then dead into Mama's eyes. From her face, it was like Rosa couldn't tell if she wanted to be mad, scared, or sad. People always look at Mama that way. Then you come upstairs and get me, Mama said. I want to work here. I had forgotten all about Rosa and her botanica when someone knocked on our door on a Sunday morning. Mama was out getting groceries and I was watching cartoons on the black and white TV Mama had bought from a thrift shop for $20. It only got 2 channels, but one of the channels showed the Roadrunner on Sundays, and that's my favorite. Rosa was standing there in our doorway dressed up in black lace. I almost didn't recognize her because she was wearing lipstick and had her face made up to look nice, even though her eyes were sad. It took me a second to remember she must have been on her way to her aunt's funeral. Mama's not here, I said. When she come, you tell her for me, no? Rosa said. Tell her she say truth. She say truth. I wanted to close the door. I was missing the best part where Wile E. Coyote straps the rocket on his back so he can fly. He always crashes in the end, but at least he flies for a little while. So does she have a job or what? I asked her. Rosa nodded. Cool, I thought. Whenever Mama has a job, there's always a little extra money for candy bars and t-shirts and movies and stuff. Mama only works because of me, because she likes to buy me things like other kids. I felt a little guilty, though. At Miami Beach, I knew I'd better enjoy Mama's new job while it lasted. She could never work long before she had to run away. At the Botanica, Rosa put up a sign in the window saying she had a psychic inside, and she told people they could go back into the storeroom, past the colorful curtain, to talk to Mama. The thing is, Rosa got it all wrong at first. She would say Mama could tell people if their husbands were cheating or if they would get a raise at work, the kind of lame stuff they see on TV commercials. Mama just shakes her head and tells people she knows one thing only. And when she says what it is, some of them really do turn pale, like ghost pale. Then they stand up as if she smells bad and they're afraid to stand too close to her. At Rosa's Botanica, Mama didn't get too many customers at first. But it was still kind of nice because she and Rosa started becoming friends, even though they could barely talk to each other. I like Mama to have friends. When Mama wasn't helping at the cash register, most of the day she'd sit back there watching TV or playing cards with me. Sometimes when there weren't any customers, Rosa would come back with us and watch Spanish language soap operas. I like to watch them too because you don't need to know Spanish to understand those. Someone's cheating on somebody, somebody's pissed about something. Mama and Rosa would laugh together, and Rosa would explain some parts to Mama. He very bad man, she would say in her sandpapery voice, or that woman no married to him. But Rosa didn't need to do that because most things don't need words. Most things you can see for yourself. So one day there was a thunderstorm, and Rosa was shaking her head as she stood in front of her store window, staring out at the dark clouds. Lightning turned on the whole sky with a flash. Then it was black again, and the thunder sounded like a giant boulder being rolled across the clouds. Miami Beach has the best storms I have ever seen, but Rosa was only letting herself see the scary parts. I get killed to drive in that, Rosa said. Mama grinned. No, you won't, not today. Mama's grin was so big, Rosa looked at her real close. I could see Rosa's face change, the corners of her lips lying flat. Ain't nothing to worry about. You got a long ways. You want to know? Mama said. No, Rosa said through tight lips. All of a sudden, she didn't sound like Mama's friend anymore. She sounded like her boss lady. She waved her hand in Mama's face. No, no. Mama shrugged, trying to pretend she wasn't hurt. She was just trying to be nice. But that's how it is, because nobody wants to know the only thing Mama knows how to give away. It took a week at the Botanica before even one customer decided to hear what Mama had to say. I liked that lady. She was brown-skinned and young, and she touched me on my shoulder when she passed me in the doorway instead of looking right past me like most people do. Maybe if I'd been older, I would have wanted to ask her out on a date, or she could have been my sister, maybe. Are you the psychic? She asked Mama. She had some kind of island accent, who knows what. Everyone in Miami was like us, from somewhere else. Mama wasn't in a how can I help you today kind of mood. You want a psychic? Then you need to call one of them stupid ass telephone services and waste your money to hear what you want. I only got one thing to tell. Then Mama told her what her specialty was. But the woman didn't run away. And she didn't look scared. She just made her eyes narrow and stared at my mother like she couldn't quite see her. Are you telling the truth? I ain't got time for lies, Mama said. Then I want to know how much. The price is usually $20 for people Mama likes, $100 for people she doesn't. She asked the woman for 20, exact change. You always have to pay first. That's the rule. Then Mama makes you sit across from her at the card table. She takes an index card from her pile and she scribbles a date in pencil, just like that. She doesn't have to close her eyes or hold your hand or whisper to Jesus. It's nothing like that at all. Now, Mama said, holding the card up so the woman couldn't see what she'd written. I'ma tell you from experience, this ain't the best time to look at this. Not right now. Some folks like to go where there's lots of light or nice music or where you got somebody you love. This ain't nothing to share with strangers. That means me too. Save it for when you're ready. But when Mama gave her the card, the woman held it in her palms like a shiny seashell and stared down, not even blinking. I saw her shoulders rise up and she let out a breath that sounded like a whimper. I wish she'd listen to Mama because it makes me feel so bad when people cry. But this woman, when she stood up to leave, she was smiling. A smile as long as a mile. This time when she walked past me, she pressed her palm against my cheek. She made me smile too. When she was gone, Mama clapped her hands twice and laughed. Look at that. That girl is something else. Mama is always so happy when she doesn't make people afraid. She's going to be an old timer, huh? I said. Mama shook her head. No, child, 10 years almost to the day, May 4th. She said, her face bright like it hadn't been in a long time. I didn't get it at first. The woman was so young, like in her 20s. How could she be happy to have 10 years left? But then I thought maybe she was sick with something really bad and she thought she was a goner already. To her, maybe 10 years was like a whole new life. It's weird. I've seen grown men with gray hair and deep lines in their faces drop to their knees and cry after Mama told them they had 25 years. No lie. Maybe they thought they would live forever and Mama's telling them the day, month, and year just made it real. And then there are people like this lady, so young and pretty with no time left at all. And they walk out smiling like it's Christmas. Those people are my favorite kind. And that's all I'm going to share from my short story, The Knowing.
Oh, come on.
I know, I'm
Wow.
sorry. It has a twist even at the end. So.
Oh my gosh, I bet it does. So where can we find the rest of it? Because that was amazing. And I have so many questions and so many thoughts.
Well, thank you. It's from my short story collection, which is called Ghost Summer Stories. And it was published in 2015. It won a British Fantasy Award, which I was very surprised about, since I didn't know they were reading it over in Britain. That was news to me. But yeah, it's my first short story collection, a long time in the making over the years as editors asked me to write stories. Yeah.
I would like to say that I own that. I just have not finished reading it.
Oh, finish that story.
I'm definitely going to now that I know that it's in there, because I recently just got it, so I didn't get a chance to dig into it like I wanted to.
I'm just
But,
glad you got it.
Yeah, I'm glad that story's in there now, so I can go finish it. So
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm going to find out before you, Kortney. So hi.
Yeah, you are. I'm gonna find out though. I'm gonna get it. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Oh yeah, I like my child protagonists. You know, there's something so not just innocent about that age, but they have such a strength. At least I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they just do that. It's not that they won't need therapy later, but there's just a way, like the way they can pick up an iPad and know how to turn it on. I think they also just adjust to like what is in some ways that adults have a harder time, you know?
Yeah, I do. And I've recently heard something about that as well, where they just have this, I can't even think of the words of, or who said it, but definitely the children seem a bit stronger, or they have less maybe to worry about or to think about than us adults.
Yeah, that could be part of it too, you know. And like I said, it all comes back later, but in the moment, you know, I often think like in a horror movie, children are often depicted as like sort of being paralyzed and screaming in the corner, but also there's sometimes the first ones who are like, run, you know, and like figure it out, like, I told you there's a monster in this bed. Now get on there, let's go. You know, it's like
Definitely. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, I will present a Black History fact, and we will go from there. So we will be right back to the Indue podcast.
The Indue podcast.
Hey, dear listeners, just a gentle reminder that you can support the Indue Network by subscribing to the Indue Patreon at patreon.com/Indue.
But hold up, Sterling. I keep hearing about this website. What is Patreon?
So glad you asked. Patreon is a membership platform where subscribers can pay, fund, or donate to creators for content. In other words, if you subscribe for a small monthly fee, you can get bonus podcasts, reviews, videos, and just awesome extra goodies from the Indue Network.
So all that extra stuff we couldn't fit in this episode they're listening to right now will be on the Patreon?
Exactly, and so much more.
Oh, really? Well, where does my money go?
Well, podcasts cost money. Microphones, conferencing software, and host websites aren't free. So every little bit that a patron chips in helps produce the content they already love and enjoy. And for your contributions, based on how much you give per month, will unlock more perks to be enjoyed that are created specifically for patrons.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. So where do I go again?
Patreon.com/Indue. Browse around. Some posts are free. Most are $1, but you're free to do more and you will get more. And we at the Indue Network will certainly appreciate the help keeping the studio lights on.
That's for sure. And thank you to the patrons that are already supporting and enjoying all that extra bonus content. Like that one video where you did that one thing you said you wouldn't, couldn't, and shouldn't do.
Oh, I know. And I almost got killed to death trying to do it, but I did it and now it's done.
That was hilarious.
Good times.
Good times.
Howdy, folks. Clem the old prospector here to tell you you can strike it rich, and you don't even need a pick and a shovel. All you need is a new quick pick from the Nebraska lottery. Woo! With 6 chances to win, odds are you'll do better than me digging in this old mountain here. The new quick pick from the Nebraska lottery.
And welcome back. First, I think since you mentioned storms earlier, I did want to do a quick word watch.
Word watch.
This is actually one of my favorite words. Tornadic was used today, and
like a tornadic news cycle.
Yes, that too.
Ba-dum-bum.
Lovely. Still doing the stand-up thing too. I see.
I'll be here for the next 5 minutes.
We had like tornado watches and such today because of the crazy weather going on. But yeah, it does. Yeah, it is a tornadic climate. So on all speaking always.
Black history.
Black history. Black history. Black history.
Facts.
But our Black History fact has nothing to do with horror whatsoever, but it does have to do with like literal history. Today, 51 years ago today, Thurgood Marshall was sworn as the first African American Supreme Court judge or justice in 1967. So it's just a little blurb, just a little bit, but that is today's fact. And I'm also breaking the wall. We recorded this on October 2nd, and this is coming out in Halloween. So,
well, I'm honored to be with you on both of those dates, Thurgood Marshall's anniversary and also on Halloween. Although, of course, the former is far more important, but the latter is also fun. And yes. Yeah, Thurgood Marshall is one of my heroes. So, yay.
Yes, definitely. And I pointed that out too, also because of what's happening these days. But that's
hopefully that will all be long behind us. But let's just send out good vibes.
Everything is burning down, but hey, we're here, enjoying ourselves and laughing, and it's all good. So yeah. So where can people find you if you want to be found? But you do have a lovely Twitter presence, as I've mentioned before.
Yeah, at Tananarive Due on Twitter. It's an important battleground, as well as a great place to make friends and have fun. And also, for those of you who've heard me talking about my Sunken Place class and like, oh, I wish I went to UCLA. You don't actually have to go to UCLA, because I created a non-credit webinar version of the course that anybody can take. Stephen Barnes and I teach it, and Jordan Peele Jordan Peele actually Skyped. He Skyped to do a lecture or a Q&A with us for that. That's why I say we're fam, because we don't talk like really or hang out or anything, but it's just like that. We're on the same wavelength about Black horror and what it can do and what it means. We talked to Tony Todd, Candyman, but mostly it's about the history and some of that context.
That sounds awesome.
With horror, 6 lectures, recommended reading, recommended films, and as extras, there's a screenwriting class and a crowdfunding webinar. So if you read about horror, then you write your horror, and then you make your horror. And that's the whole point of this. The sunkenplaceclass.com is the URL, www.sunkenplaceclass.com.
Awesome.
Did not know there was a online version, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we put that together in January, and it ran live for 6 sessions, but we have all the sessions as now a digital download at a reduced price, because it was a much higher price when it was a live class.
Sure. Awesome.
And you have several novels that are available, at least on Amazon, because that's where I do most of my shopping anyway.
Plugging my books. Okay, well,
please.
Ghost Summer, My Soul to Keep is the book I'm probably best known for. That's my African Immortals series of 4 novels, a fantasy series, horror. The Good House is my scariest. So if you want some Halloween listening, pick up the audiobook in particular. That Robin Miles, one of my favorite narrators, is the narrator for that book, and she kills it. She kills it with the accents. So it's almost like watching a movie.
Awesome. Well, there are your recommendations to keep your Halloween spooky and creepy and whatnot. And I will probably, if I do listen, I will keep the lights on, because I'm putting Kortney with me under this bus so that we are both weenies and we scare easily. So.
It's not scary. Did I say it's scary? It's not scary at all.
Sure. And then I'll let you know. Like, I can't.
Horror queen.
I can't function now. I'm afraid to go outside or
off of the bed or something.
Right. It'll get me, whatever it is. So
doesn't matter what it is. It's just going to get me.
It's going to get me. The grabby gotchas. It's going to get me.
It's going to get you, all right.
You're not helping.
See, I knew it.
Sorry.
And Kortney, do you have anything you would like to plug or share?
Absolutely. You can find me over on the Twitters at IamKHinton, where I generally tweet up a storm about, let's see, plant care. It's October now, so anything pumpkin spice or just pumpkin or fall related, because as we all know, this is the best time of the year. And
are you familiar with farming?
Farming?
Yeah, growing corn and pumpkins and stuff.
Not really, honestly.
Okay.
And
All
I'm in a
right.
very agricultural. I'm in Arkansas, so I should know more about it than
All
I
right. Well,
do.
you got me going there. Okay, but good. That sounds great.
I just love fall. um, so yeah, catch me over there at IMK Hinton on the Twitters, and yeah, let's chat.
All right, cool. So this episode, like I had already spoiled, is we recorded earlier, and this will come after the live episode. So I want to thank everyone who made that successful, even though currently it hasn't happened yet. I'm time jumping in my head, so there's your time travel reference. And
I always knew you were a Time Lord. I always knew it.
I will have to edit this part out then, because no one's supposed to know. So, but anyway, in the meantime, you can follow me on all things Indoob, or at Indoob rather. Go to indoob.com to find the Patreon to subscribe for more perks, and find my T Public store to get t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more. Please rate, comment, and share the pod on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Podbean, and Spotify. Thank you so much for supporting, listening, stopping by, and pressing play. Tell someone you value that you value them, and live for the folks you love. I've been your benevolent host, T. Sterling Watson. And remember, if the world didn't suck, we'd all fall off.
No.
On that note.
Submitted for your approval. Sometimes history is horror, and if we aren't paying attention, we're doomed to repeat those same horrors in the future, regardless of our proximity to the spookums zone. The Indoob Podcast is recorded in a studio somewhere on planet Earth. The Indoob Podcast is part of the Indoob Network, and if you'd like to get in contact with the Indoob Podcast, please email indoobpod@gmail.com. That is indoobpod@gmail.com. You can find the Indoob Podcast on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Google Play, and of course Podbean, or wherever podcasts may be procured. If you'd like to find out more information, please visit indoob.com, where you can find our store, the blog, and of course our Patreon, if you'd like to support and donate and find more perks and fun things to listen to and watch. For Chief, DJ Joe Daddy, Bilford, this is T. Sterling Watson signing off. Thank you so much for listening.
Use your words, Chief. Good boy.
This has been another 3SFX production.